Go home, everyone! It's Deep Dive Zone, a Sonic review series for fans of all shapes and sizes. I'm your host, Devin, joined as always by my co-hosts, Lauren and Bruce, and today we are going home in Sonic X with the almost final 3 episodes of the second core, but technically the last one is chopped off until next week. But this is the portion of the show we like to call the Going Home arc.
Really original with these names.
What do you want me to call it? Everybody is slightly dour because things are going to change forever arc? I don't know.
Sure.
How about
Well,
the worlds colliding arc or something?
Yeah, I think that's better, honestly.
Yeah, maybe. We are starting off this week with episode 49, The Day the Earth Stood Still, or The Beginning of the End in the dub. The world Sonic and friends hail from is slowly beginning to merge with Earth. Scientists inform the heroes that if Sonic and company are not returned to their world, the merchants will destroy the flow of time. Christopher Thorndike will not accept this.
I'm starting to see why people really don't like Chris.
Yeah.
He doesn't exist a lot of the time that much, and I don't really care, but when he really exists, he makes his existence known.
He does. He really does.
We can talk about Chris all we want. What we gotta talk about is Amy got a job.
Hey, they basically live in San Francisco. You can't live on no job in San Francisco.
I don't know how she had that apartment for as long as she did already.
I don't know, the Thorndikes were paying for it.
Most likely.
I don't know why they aren't now.
Probably she wanted to get a job or something.
Yeah, maybe she was just getting bored.
Rent control to the rescue, I guess. I don't know. Deco and Boko got jobs too. Now they're groundskeepers at the Thorndike Mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess they're just used to working for someone.
Yeah.
But now they're actually treated well, so...
Yeah. I did kind of find it a little ironic that they went from one job where they were basically just the help to another job where they're just the help. But yeah, they're treated a lot better here.
Also, they let out an unbelievably, cursed line here. One of them says something like, "Let's get adopted by Topaz and Tanaka when they get married."
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I didn't realize that was on the books.
Well, it's like, A, they haven't been, they obviously the show was shipped those two. It hasn't shipped them that hard. And B,
yeah.
What do you think the situation's gonna look like there? They want to adopt, 2 robot sons who are possess the mental faculties of adults, I assume.
It is a little weird.
And at the same time, Eggman and Bokun are feeling the pain of not having the regular cooks around.
What the fuck is Eggman even cooking here?
I'm not sure. I didn't know that Bokun needed to eat. I thought he just liked the pie.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And, terrible cooking is a theme here because the Thorndike parents are also hosting a barbecue, and they can't cook for shit either.
That's not surprising.
No, we already knew that, but...
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen Lindsay try to cook.
In this scene, you can see, based on what everyone's wearing,
Freedom shirt.
the freedom movement has become sort of more official. Before, people were just, slacking off and stuff, but now it's, got a name and all that.
Yeah.
Although, I do find it funny that Tanaka has the freedom shirt under his
suit jacket.
Yes.
He prioritizes one thing over the other.
I think, wasn't there a comment also that Nelson had the shirts made? And, that does not... A big company being behind at least the shirts just does not track to me.
I mean,
That's
that's
money
because
off
of
of
the
it.
relation to Sonic, who is...
I guess, yeah.
The spirit of freedom. I think it is funny that he's doing this when people slacking off of work was the whole reason that his company was in trouble.
That's true. To be fair, though, that's not his fault. But yeah, you're right.
Just absolutely no, doesn't think about, what that would theoretically do if current trends continue.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, Chuck gets a call about something serious in the moment here. And characteristically for this show, we don't get to learn what it is yet.
No, but we do know it's a call from the president.
Yeah. Sam chases a speeding guy until he falls to his doom, but Sonic saves him.
We have to have more of Sonic showing Sam up for some reason.
Well, in this case, it's for, bookending purposes, because they decide to race right after that, and we do the big Sonic jump from the first episode again.
Right.
The scenes are so similar. I didn't actually check, but it almost seemed like maybe the frames were reused. But
I'm guessing it's probably either very similar or reused animation.
But the thing that surprised me here was that, so yeah, the guy flies off the edge, loses his car. Sonic saves him though, and then Sam is like, "Well, see ya." He's so irresponsible. Like,
yeah, he doesn't arrest him for speeding or anything. He just leaves
and destroying public property.
Yeah,
I am not one to question how are you a police officer on account of like there's no bottom to that, but like what is this guy even, what do the people in charge think he's doing? Like I feel like we've never seen him do his job properly more than like twice.
Yeah, his group of like high-speed cops, they don't appear to actually do anything.
Actually, the rest of the high-speed police force barely exists outside of the first episode.
Yeah, we've pretty much only seen them in the first episode. Every other time it's just been Sam. Which, granted, that makes sense. He's the only one who's even remotely important because he's related to the main characters.
In any case, our book ending is continued as Chris sees something in his pool, but it is not Sonic. It is actually a cat this time.
Yeah.
And it gets out on its own because cats can swim.
He's also working on some kind of school assignment. I think it's was like, what makes you happy or something. Oh no, my dreams for the future. That's what it is. And one of his dreams is wanting to stay with Sonic.
Oh boy. They should have called this episode Chris Thorndike versus the Future.
Oh, that would have been good.
But yes, that's not important. What's important is the scientists who showed up to tell the Thorndikes the thing that we've been talking about for a lot of this show, which is that Sonic World and Earth were originally one planet/dimension.
Yeah, and there was some sort of like dimensional split. Or it would be something like that.
So, while I am happy to get answers, I am annoyed that they're just like, this is it. This is what happened right here, just all at once.
They don't really explain how or why it happened.
Or how the hell they know any of this.
Yeah, they just say like, yeah, it happened.
Yeah, there's no logical explanation as to how they figured this out.
Yeah.
And they don't really go into much depth either. It is interesting, though, I suppose, that, okay, so they were combined ones, and that neatly explains everything that we've observed so far, really.
And that makes sense, because we've been saying multiple times that that's our running theory and or what they've been alluding to this entire time anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it covers a lot of the weird holes. I would say not as many of them as I would like, because the fact that we don't have any kind of timescale for when this happened, I feel like if you asked the creators of the show when this was supposed to have happened, they would have said, oh, it was millennia ago before there was even much life on it or something like that. Because some of this stuff would only make sense if the split was, like, relatively recent.
Yeah. Which doesn't make much sense either because of how everyone reacts to the arrival of the Sonic characters.
Yeah, it's a weird.
Maybe it messes with your memory. I don't know. But,
it's a weird explanation. Well, it's a perfectly fine explanation that just brings up more questions, though.
Which is probably why it's vague. But
yeah,
they should have planned it just a little bit better, and I think it would work really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good basis.
We don't get to really think about that too much, though, because then we get another revelation, which is apparently when the two planets recombine, it will just freeze time.
And what?
Yes, so because of the presence of Sonic and Friends on Earth, and I don't have a problem necessarily with stuff on the planets being mixed will cause them to come back together, but what I do have a problem with is them coming back together. In their words, time will die. What? That didn't happen before they split apart, I assume.
Well, yeah.
So, what?
And the way that they talk about this throughout the episode, it's like they say there will be no life and death, no disparity. There should be no nothing, because if time's not moving, you aren't even going to perceive of it moving.
When I first heard this, I thought it was like, oh, it's a weird, time and space are related. When you distort space in some weird vague way, then maybe it would freeze time. Okay, I somewhat accepted that, but when they actually talk about the implications of it, they're not like, we basically die because nothing ever happens again. They're actually just like, oh, it would be really boring having the same day over and over. So it seems more like,
Sounds almost like the plot of Groundhog Day.
yes, that is the way it actually comes off.
Which is a very weird way of describing the death of time.
I mean, it's not like you couldn't make something like that work, because, I mean, dimensions and time shit is so far out of the realm of real-world possibility that with enough, techno-babble, you could justify almost anything, but they don't do that.
Yeah, they just say things, and then we just have to kind of act like, yeah, that makes sense.
It's like this is sort of the same deal as Sonic Rush, right? Where you have two dimensions coming together. But in Sonic Rush, you have the much easier explanation because they say everybody will die. And I assume that's because it's two planets existing in one space. They would telefrag each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a word I haven't heard in a long time.
I think the reason they do it differently here is to leave a slight door opening for the possibility of accepting this fate, because they debate it a little bit. Ultimately, it would be bad, but there's a slight argument for perhaps it wouldn't be the end of the world, so to speak.
I agree. I think that's the reason, because the entire point of this is Chris's arc, how he doesn't want anything to change. And letting that happen would mean that literally nothing would change.
Right.
So it's all for the drama of it. And in that regard, just bolster it a little better, I guess. I don't know.
Fair.
But, yeah, so all of this amounts to the scientists want the heroes to do chaos control again so that everything will go home and not become nothingness. That's not how chaos control has historically worked. It's never sent anything to their planet.
Right.
Well, that's why they have to build a special device.
Yeah, they have to. Yeah. They have to do a controlled chaos control, not like just Sonic going bananas.
It's not letting the chaos control it; it's controlling the chaos.
Right? Yeah, that's great.
You may know that unlike fucking Mobius, fucking 25 years fucking later, they are not blaming the heroes for it.
Yeah, that's true.
Instead, we get codependent Thorndike here, the true main character of the universe.
Oh god, he's turning into like a toxic ex-girlfriend.
He breaks a vase just to get people's attention and throws a fit and runs off crying.
So dramatic.
God.
I knew it was bad in the Exterminator episode for him to be rewarded for throwing a tantrum. And obviously, like, I want to be clear throughout these couple of episodes, the show is not on Chris's side. It knows that he's wrong.
It's not. No, it is definitely portraying Chris as wrong, but it definitely wants us to feel bad for Chris in this situation. But it's hard to feel bad for him, at least for me, because he just comes off as a super spoiled brat.
Yeah, I really don't have any sympathy for Chris, mostly because I think people are way too easy on him. They let him act out, basically. They don't really...
Yeah, I'm trying
which is kind of the point, I guess, is that they... Yes. But...
So the thing is, though, when he acts out, he never learns a lesson like, oh, don't do that.
Yeah, I was about to say, Chris has never been punished for anything, has he?
Not really. He just gets coddled.
That is part of it, right? Because his parents are rich and they don't understand, what they're doing much. And that's one of the things that they say is like, oh, their whole pattern with Chris is to neglect him and then shower him with gifts afterwards, as if that makes it better. But if you just turn the focus a little bit outside of complete sympathy towards Chris, I think it would work really well.
Sure.
But yeah, Chris convinces himself that this must all be Eggman's fault, and asks Deco and Boko. I guess he more screams at them. He asks Deco and Boko to take him to Eggman.
Yeah.
Hey, they quote-unquote actually combine this time.
Yeah, they turn into a bat signal. I mean, a Bokun signal.
I guess they weren't completely lying last time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bokun still sucks, but they can convince him to help with food and motor oil?
Is that motor oil? I thought it was cooking oil, I'm going to be honest.
Whatever it is, it doesn't make any sense, because I thought Bokun, it would just, food. whatever kind of oil that is, it doesn't make sense to just eat that on its own.
I can't stop drinking oil.
It just reminds me of, like, Archie Robotnik, how he would drink motor oil sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is kind of a similar thing.
But in any case, they do head to Eggman's place, and I like how he's very clearly happy to see Deco and Boko, but tries to save face and pretend he's not.
We get one of the sickest scene transitions in this show when there's a shine on Eggman's glasses, and then the scene fades in. It looks awesome.
That did look really cool.
Yeah. That is the thing about these 3 episodes, is I think that they have pretty good direction.
Yeah.
You know, the situation we've explained, has a lot of problems, but they do treat it with the weight I think that it does deserve, even if I don't agree with its focus on Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Chris himself rambling to Eggman about how he just loves Sonic so much, and please don't do anything about what this definitely real plan is. And Eggman, like, plays along for a second.
For a little bit. And then kind of just tells Chris, like, you're wrong.
We'll get to that. I would love for this to be like a hero-villain turn where Chris starts doing Eggman's bidding because he thinks it'll let him keep Sonic around.
That would have been actually kind of interesting.
That is what I thought Eggman was going to do. Because for a second it seems like he was trying to trick Chris, but I guess he decided, nah, not actually.
Yeah.
I think he just didn't have the wherewithal to, or like, the plan to do this. Like, I better not try this, it might cause problems. He drops the facade because he's not going to get anywhere.
Right.
He is not the one forcing the worlds apart, and honestly, Bruce, you say he just tells Chris he's wrong. It's more like he fucking destroys him.
Yeah, that's a better description.
He calls him selfish, he calls him overly reliant on others, and a huge disappointment.
All things I've heard other people call Chris as well, so...
Yeah.
Maybe not the disappointment part, but the selfish, definitely.
Yeah, and I also like that this is... Eggman... There's this subtle facial expression on him as Chris runs away, where it's kind of like, Eggman sucks, and he doesn't regret saying that, but he
does
is
seem like he kind of feels bad.
He's a little unsure about having said it. It's a really subtle drawing, but I like it.
Yeah, I kind of took it as he feels bad for Chris.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's kind of hard not to.
I think he's so used to, like, roasting enemies that stand up for themselves that he's a little taken aback by the way he reacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Eggman, he doesn't know how to deal with, like, real children. So Chris runs home and sorta apologizes, but not that much. He's clearly not convinced.
Yeah.
And I don't... Is he, like, psycho-communicating with Sonic at the end here?
I don't know what that was all about.
It does seem like it.
They have some weird psychic link or something.
Yeah, very, very weird thing at the end. He wants Sonic to not go that much that physics no longer apply to him.
Yep.
But, yeah, so definitely, they're definitely turning the camera on the drama here.
Yeah.
And that will continue here in episode 50, Morning of Farewells, or a Running Out of Time. Everyone prepares for Sonic & Company's homecoming as the gate between dimensions is finally complete. Also, some guy tries to overthrow the government.
We'll get to that. That was,
I wasn't sure how to fit that in. It doesn't really go with the rest of the plot lines.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
But it might be the most interesting thing that, well, not entirely, but it's one of them to me.
Arguably, it is an interesting thing, yes.
Yeah, it's one of them, definitely.
So, we get some nice evening lighting as Amy has packed up her apartment. That we saw, like, twice.
I will say, one thing that makes this kind of infuriating, and you don't really sympathize as much. Okay, I mean, there are people who are sad, but there's no one else who's, like, completely rejecting
everyone else is like yeah. And all the humans are like, they're sad to see them go, but they also understand that they need to go home.
Yeah, definitely if Chris was not alone in his venture, that wouldn't make him right, but it would make it less like he's the one spoiled holdout.
Right.
Yeah.
And part of it is like, we had this whole, like, freedom movement. We have Amy working a job. You'd think that, like, any of those people would show up to be sad, but not really.
You'd think so, but
Yeah.
President Mike announces on television that things are coming to an end. Sonic and Chris stand on opposite sides of the pool because symbolism? I don't know.
Just another callback.
And I want to note here, Amy is pro time stop because she hates the idea of having to develop as a character.
Well, but then Cream points out that there wouldn't be any birthdays, and then Amy's like, "Oh, okay, good point."
Yeah, no, but it's funny. Yeah, it's a very, very casual approach to this whole sort of thing, which I guess, what are you gonna do? But I'll tell you what, this random gun director guy, we should have had him in the SA2 arc for one thing.
We should have established him as, like, this is the gun commander.
Yeah,
he should have just been the gun commander from the game. Please,
Well,
somebody just edit this.
Yeah,
This
that's also
this dude
true.
is huge and hammy about everything. He is gung-ho and decides now is the perfect time to lead a full-scale assault on Eggman.
Yeah.
He
Which-
also expands on something that was subtly hinted at, but I kind of thought they forgot about, which is that he comments, okay, so all of the animals have to go back to their dimension? Pfft, well, we could have just blasted them out ourselves.
Yes, theoretically it would work if you just kill them all.
Yeah, probably would.
And yet, the men in black from SA2 are back, and they are trying to do a coup d'etat.
Yeah,
So I guess this
wow.
guy was actually the secret head of that?
I don't know.
I
It's like they
guess
mentioned
so?
people being arrested in the SA2 arc, but that didn't include this guy.
I'm guessing he was able to get away with it.
I
Or
mean,
get
he
away
is
scot-free.
he looks like he's the head of the military, so he could.
Yeah, I mean, he's a 4-star general. He's probably the head of gun.
Yeah, very, very weird.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of pandemonium. I like the shot of all the robots from Gun just going over everybody's head in the city. It's like, what the hell is happening?
Mm.
Especially since it's complete overkill because Eggman is hiding in Mystic Ruins and he does not have much right now.
Yeah, Eggman is really struggling right now. We saw him in the last episode seemingly working on a design.
Well,
but that's it.
he does have two things, which are Deco and Boko. Wait a minute. Why are Deco and Boko here? I thought that they
Chris just
ditched
left them.
Eggman. They only kept that for a single episode? Are you kidding me?
Well,
yeah.
so, kind
Well,
of.
they don't seem to. I mean, I think
guess
Chris
'cause
just left them there. I don't think they actually want to be back with Eggman.
Why didn't
it's
they go
really
home
weird,
to
right?
the
Because they went
Thorndike
there with
residence?
Chris,
That's
and
a
then
good
Chris
question.
went home, and they just didn't follow him?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's the question.
And they're actually, maybe they're just decent people, would have thought, but they are like trying to advise Eggman too.
Fair,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can't take that on its own, though, because, Eggman is being attacked, and he, is in real trouble. Sonic shows up to make fun of him, which is hilarious. But he does also grab and throw a missile out of their way, and even offers to help.
You just brushed over that. That was such a jaw-dropping moment. It was like, what? Sonic could just catch a missile? What the heck?
Makes me wonder if Sonic just experiences everything in like slow motion.
I feel like we've seen Sonic do that before, is why I just
I
brought
think
it
Really?
up.
we've seen him do something similar in Archie.
Oh, in Archie, yes.
Well, in
Archie-
Archie, he's a
okay.
friggin' god.
Yeah, that's the problem. Power scaling in Archie is just fucking insane.
I'll tell you what I'll tell you what I'm thinking of. There is a part where he does that in the first Sonic movie. He grabs a missile and does that.
That's right. Yeah.
So it just doesn't seem that weird to me.
Fair enough. Yeah.
We hadn't seen something like that in this show yet.
It's in the
Yeah.
trailer, I
This
think.
Sonic we hadn't seen it. Or this show we hadn't seen it, but like, yeah, that is true. He does do it in the movie. Granted, I think I felt the same way about it in the movie.
So yeah, Deco and Boca are like, yes, please do help us. They say that instead of Eggman, which is funny.
Yeah, because they're not dumb. Well,
yeah.
okay.
And so Sonic fighting Gun on behalf of Eggman is funny.
The weird time.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sonic can't let Eggman die, then what is he gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be bored.
True.
Exactly.
Also, remember this scene, any of you IDW angry people. We also get Rouge and Knuckles sneaking and breaking into the White House to rescue President Mike.
Yeah, because I guess like it's just the military part of Gunn that's trying to enact this coup, because the intelligence arm seems to be working against it.
Yeah, I don't know how
Yeah.
that works. But, apparently Rouge, Knuckles, Eggman, and Sonic are all it takes to keep that coup stopped. Thanks
Makes
to,
sense.
as well, Eggman launching his final flying fortress, which is the Egg Force 1 and 2 haphazardly chunked together with the egg carrier.
Yep. Seems like something Eggman would do.
Yeah, he's like, all right, I just need something real fast.
Yeah. There's no part of the egg pirate ship in here, is there?
No, there's not. It's just the two fortresses and the yeah.
Well, that thing
So-
only showed up for like one episode anyway, so...
Yeah.
I would like to point out here, if there's any doubt, that Eggman does command Deco and Boko to activate things, and they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just back with him now.
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, the coup is stopped. They punch out some men in black, and for their trouble, Eggman gives Sonic the computer chip that Tails and Chuck need to make the Chaos Control Machine work.
Yeah, we saw him working on it earlier in the episode. There was a Men in Black somehow spying on him.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he's just
yeah.
in a place, so yeah.
Well, so I thought Eggman was like in his base.
No, his base has been lost somehow.
Well, his current base, which is just like a shack in Mystic Ruins.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, they could have discovered that.
Yeah.
Or I guess I would assume that can't be all of his base. He had to have something underneath it.
Yeah. But yeah, because of that chip, that means that they really can start the machine and go home.
Mm-hmm.
Their machine is a friggin' Stargate, I might add.
Yes, it is.
Everyone piles into various cars to head out. Is that the regular tornado?
That is, the X-Tornado's finally fucked off!
How does that work? Did they just downgrade the X-Tornado?
Yeah, fuck you, X-Tornado.
I genuinely don't know what this
I have
means.
no idea how that works, but
Is
I
there
don't
two
care.
planes? I don't know.
I mean,
There he is now.
at this point, they have to have had two planes, because there's no way they could have turned the X-Tornado back into the tornado. I refuse to believe that.
Didn't use the other plane ever.
I don't know, man.
Whatever. This is exactly what I wanted. Keep it like this. I don't care.
Sure, yeah.
There is
Stargate.
also...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, well,
No.
before we get onto that, I was going to say there is a scene where the gun turncoat commander is arrested.
Oh, yeah.
And because I don't think it's going to come up again, I'm just going to say that I will accept this is the show's way of explaining all the absolutely outrageous acts that Gunn has made across the show.
Their commander was a fucking psychopath.
Yeah, it's this guy. And I'll accept that maybe that would explain
Yeah.
how, otherwise the president seems reasonable and all that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough explanation, all things.
Maybe Heterochromia Man is like a retired senior officer that they put back in charge after this guy, and he actually knows what he's doing better.
And that's why we'll never see him.
Well, I'm thinking that, like, Gunn, after Adventure 2, it's like, their actions in Shadow the Hedgehog, obviously they're bad for Shadow, but they're much better for everybody else in the world, so maybe that's even the explanation in the games, that, like, whoever it was in Adventure 2 was more crooked than Heterochromia Man.
Yeah, I mean, the only other things we've really...
I wish that guy had a name. He has a name in Archie, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, well, in any case, yeah, thank you for, I guess, resolving that plotline.
Yeah, the plotline that we really needed resolved.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
I guess, actually, yeah, it's not a bad thing to have resolved.
When there are weird things in this show that just don't quite add up, I appreciate when later there are somewhat answers to those things.
Yeah,
Gunn is the biggest secondary villain in this show, so...
True.
Alright, Stargate time. It is a Stargate, but it still needs the emeralds to work, so that kind of is hilarious to me. They said today was the day they were going home, but they didn't wait until they tested it or had all the emeralds?
That's a good question.
I think the idea is they didn't have time, although as we see later, they were really playing it safe, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and the thing is, it does work. They turn it on.
Yeah.
It takes those tiny animals that appeared there for, one shot. I don't know what the point of having those guys there was.
That's a good question.
Very strange. And Eggman flies in too, with his egg carrier, Egg Fort 3. I don't know how that works. I guess it, is a portal, but it wormholes him.
Yeah.
He's got to be armed and ready.
Well, I'm just imagining, like, does he like go over their heads and like fly down it? It's like that should create enough wind to blow them all away. I don't know.
We're overthinking it.
It is also strange that the animals are pulled in, and yet, like, Tails, who's standing right there, isn't pulled in. It honestly is kind of strange.
The animals for that? I don't know.
Maybe it just doesn't have enough plot power.
Oh yeah. The main characters are too plot resistant.
Exactly. They need more Chaos Emeralds to be able to affect their plot power.
And it's really weird because that happens, it turns off, and because they only had one emerald and now need the others, they're all just like down in the dumps about it.
Yeah, they are.
And okay, let's talk about this next part. Tails messes with it for a while and somehow gets it working again. Maybe you don't need more else? I don't know.
Tails magic.
I thought Sonic like brought an emerald or something.
Maybe he did. I don't remember.
Wait, yeah, doesn't he bring the red Chaos Emerald? Because he found it earlier this episode, or maybe at the end of last episode.
No, Sonic brought the red Chaos Emerald before their first use of it. Tails just fixed it somehow.
Maybe. Actually, wait, there's also another explanation, too.
That's not my problem.
Well, there is another explanation.
My problem is this next part. The arc turns
what the fuck?
On.
Yeah, what the fuck?
And, like, is that the Eclipse Cannon shooting it? Shouldn't they all die?
Well, what the fuck turns on the arc?
Yeah, what?
Is it the ghost of Maria?
It seems like Tails operates it remotely.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't act surprised in any way, and Chuck congratulates him.
How would Tails have activated remote? Well, I guess maybe he went up there and rigged it up.
Before he left, he just put a device in it in case he ever needed to activate it remotely.
Oh yeah, just let me leave my wireless USB here.
You see, Lauren, what you're saying actually makes sense, and we don't like things that make sense.
Show. Yeah, it's too reasonable.
Yeah, it's too reasonable for this show. It needs to be stupider.
Who is seeing that flashback of Shadow and Maria? Like, who's thinking about them? I don't know.
I don't know. Fucking the ghost of Maria. Shadow. Oh, Shadow's
ghosts
somewhere.
Are a fact of this show.
That's true, they are.
But I don't know if they're the ghosts of people, so...
Also, to answer that second part, it's not the Eclipse Cannon being fired, it's just channeling the energy through that.
Right.
So, Chuck is really sad to see Tails go and, like, hugs him, and...
I like that at first,
you're
Tails...
the grandson that I always wanted. That was mean.
Oh, so true, though.
It is.
I do like that at first Tails kind of looks a little awkward in the hug.
Yeah, Tails is like, what's going on?
Chuck is among the better humans, I would say, so I'll give him that one.
Yeah, that's fair.
And, it's like, when I think about Tails, who has he really had much character dynamic and relationship with in this show?
Chuck.
It's mostly only Chuck.
Yeah.
Well, and
because with Sonic, it's business as usual, and with Chris, it's like, he just kind of hangs around.
To be perfectly honest, the only character that's gotten any work with Chris has been Sonic. We haven't gotten
I guess
any
we'll
of
need
the
to
rest
wait
of them.
till next season for Tails to get any strong dynamic with somebody. Cream says goodbye to all of Chris's friends, which, do you guys even talk?
We did see them walk home with Chris.
That one time.
With Cream and Emerald. So,
I think there's implied
it's
things that happened.
Yeah, look, the show can't be any longer than it already is.
Thank goodness.
We don't need to show all of this in an episode. Or all of them, like, interacting.
Amy says bye to Ella and Tanaka. That one I can believe, at least, because they're always in the same house.
Well, Amy spent a lot of time with Ella.
Yeah, even gets a sweet recipe book out of it.
Hell yeah. But Amy doesn't get to take her cactus.
It's a going away present.
I guess, yeah.
So, Cream and Vanilla go, then Amy goes, and then Tails flies his plane into the gate, which, okay. I guess he gotta get it through somehow.
Yeah, it's the same... I think it's the same concept as Eggman getting his stuff through.
Yeah. Rouge gives Topaz a gem to remember her by, which I guess must be the greatest honor she can bestow on someone.
Yeah, she didn't take it with her.
Yeah, you should have kissed her. No,
The show can't be that overt.
Yeah, look, the show can't be that gay.
no, but you could have at least not immediately had Tanaka there to be the shoulder to cry on.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't hate this because, as you said, Rouge giving away a gem is actually a pretty big gesture for
It
Rouge
is.
standards, and Topaz is visibly disturbed by this.
Physically disturbed.
Well, I'm just saying she breaks down crying. It's a stronger reaction than I expected.
I know, but using visibly disturbed makes it sound like that creeped her out.
Okay.
But I know what you mean.
And then Tanaka just shows up because he wants to comfort her. That's all.
I guess it could be anyone. If it has to be Tanaka, so be it.
Yeah. Knuckles goes through, and I want to mention, he says, "We're the only ones left?" No, you're not.
What about Big?
What about the Chaotix?
That's true. The Big and the Chaotix just didn't show up.
I mean, they probably came through in the first wave, I assume.
Oh, they're so unimportant. They're so plot unimportant that they got grabbed.
Well, it's weird. They brought in the Chaotix and then just didn't use them.
Well, yeah, we saw the Chaotix for a whole one episode.
Yeah, that's a very weird decision. It's like and that's something that happens a little more later, where they tend to treat them as a one episode affair until they stop doing that. I think they realized partway through that they were worth keeping around.
Well, I think we saw Big more than we saw the Chaotix.
It's true.
To be fair, though,
At
Big
this
is
point, yes.
actually plot relevant in SA. Well, he's barely plot relevant in SA1.
Yeah.
His frog is the plot relevant one.
Mm-hmm.
But the crux of all this and the cliffhanger for this episode is what happens here, which is that Chris is so distraught about saying goodbye to Sonic that he deliberately shuts down the machine to keep Sonic there.
Oh my fucking god.
I didn't expect this. I'm going to be honest.
This is why I want villain Chris, okay?
So, I had it spoiled for me a long time before watching this show that Chris did something when it came to them going home. I didn't know it was this, though.
So, if I recall seeing scenes of this show, little clips later on, I think he sticks around. I thought he was going to just dive in after Sonic. I didn't expect that he was going to possibly doom the world.
I was expecting him to pull Sonic back and then the wormhole would close.
That also could have happened. I also could have seen that, I suppose.
It's the exact same idea as him just closing it in front of
It's
Sonic.
not, that's not really all that different.
Yeah, it really isn't.
The thing is, Devin, you're totally right. It sounds absurd, but Chris really is a minor antagonist in this show.
Yeah, he's definitely kind of is.
The thing is, this comes after he has his tearful goodbye, and everyone is like, "All right, Chris, be strong," and then he's like, "No,
fuck you. I want to be with my friend."
I think that's, the closer you get to the moment, the more irrational he's going to act. I don't necessarily have a problem with the execution, but it's like, wow.
Jesus.
It's
it feels to me almost like the writers want you to actually hate Chris. I don't think they actually do.
No, they definitely want you to think that this is wrong, and we'll see through the next episode how that plays out, but I'm not even mad about it, if I'm honest. I am actually impressed at the audacity for them going there and having the character arc of essentially the main character be the show, be that he is just unable to accept any kind of, responsibility.
Yeah.
Well,
and we're going to see that here.
Interesting setup, but we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, we're going to see that here in episode 51, Chris's Long Journey, or Friends Till the End. Chris shuts down the machine, grabs Sonic, and runs away. The two go off the grid and wander through nature as Chris thinks about what Sonic wants, what he wants, and who has the right to decide. And, We start with this extended recap of Chris being lonely without his parents, and it's like, you guys should have done this kind of stuff earlier in the show to get me to believe it, is my immediate thought.
Yeah, it doesn't really work as well now.
And like, it's very telling. They have, the bit from the other episode where Chris writes on a piece of paper, "My dream is to be with Sonic forever," and then he throws it in the bin saying, "No, that's childish."
Right.
And, that is part of it, is that it is the coming of age story. I just have kind of a hard time buying the relation to Sonic with how the rest of the show has gone. Because Sonic is not a surrogate parent.
No, he's a friend.
Yeah, it's like we've been over this. I don't understand how the I have nobody thing works.
Yeah, that's just bad writing, I hate to say.
It's not done very believably.
No.
But when they actively show that he has at least 3 friends that he spends a decent amount of time with.
Yeah. And caretakers at his house.
Yeah, caretakers that love him, and a grandfather that, when he's not in his lab, seems to spend quite a bit of time with him.
Yeah. The real star of all of this, I would say, is Sonic, who has been, such... we've noted how Sonic is a dick in this show. Sonic is... You'd almost think he's out of character in this episode, because he's completely easygoing about this.
It feels like he's out of character.
No, I'm sorry, but I can't accept this. This is the plot bending Sonic's character to fit Chris's arc. I understand that Sonic will sometimes not take the most direct solution if, like, he's enjoying himself or something, or he thinks he can afford to mess around a little bit, toy with Eggman or whatever. I don't really see... His relationship with Chris is not very well built out, as we just talked about.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that he would risk the fate of the world to not hurt Chris's feelings. All he has to do is just push away Chris, wait for them to reactivate the portal, and go through. Like, he should have done that. He shouldn't run off for an indeterminate amount of time.
Here's what I think this is the world is not dying, like, right now.
Yeah, it's a
Well, see, the way they stated it the other episodes, like, we have to go, we can't waste time. I thought that they calculated it out that they needed to go as soon as possible. And so at this point they're on borrowed time, and they're just lucky that the world hasn't ended yet. Because, the calculations are not exact.
That was not the impression that I got, because I think that if you remove that, then what this is, I don't think is Sonic massaging Chris's feelings. I think this is Sonic trying to take the actions that would push Chris to be better, because Sonic does want to see the best in people, I would say.
Yeah.
I think that could be it, that your ability to believe this hinges on exactly how far you're willing to stretch the gravity of the situation. Because it's like, if the things really did start going haywire, and, like, if Sonic was not gone, the world really would be just exploding or whatever, I don't think that Sonic would just stay here. I think he would run back and win in the nick of time, because that's his style.
Yeah.
So
I guess he could have that in reserve, which is, like, if it really became clear, he could just run super fast back.
Because this is the thing, is that Chris clearly expects Sonic to call him out on this behavior, but Sonic is completely reticent. He's essentially forcibly leaving Chris alone with his thoughts, even though he's still right there next to him.
Yeah.
So I don't know, because, like, outside of that, if we do say that the situation is not that immediately bleak, I actually kind of like a lot of these scenes.
I mean, it gives us probably the most we've seen Sonic and Chris together, at least in a while.
Well, and a lot of it is, like, very quiet. Like, there's a lot of just wandering nature. It's very different feeling from any other episode of the show.
Yeah.
Well, at the very last second, they decided to build Chris and Sonic's dynamic.
Yeah, it's like, that is definitely it. You had 50 episodes to do this.
Yeah.
I do like Sonic's friggin' misdrawn Sonic Underground face when Chris falls on a slope.
I'm so happy we got a little Sonic Underground looking shit.
We also get a rare scene of Sonic eating food in a diner.
Yeah, with a map that says Dolorado.
Is that the fake state?
I assume so. Which, if
It's
they're
right
in,
next to Delmarva.
well, I was gonna say if Station Square's in fake. Wait, the map also just says Arkansas. I didn't notice that. That's interesting. But if Station Square is in fake California, holy crap, Chris has bicycled a lot.
Yeah, I guess so. But that slope scene is actually important because when Sonic does his Englishy, "Are you alright?" Chris says no and gets up and he's like, "I'm alright on my own." So I think that's Sonic's plan paying off a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like he's trying to help Chris with being a little more self-confident,
Sort
but
of, yeah.
it's weird.
We do get more of that thesis from before, which is Chuck sort of slaps some sense into Nelson and Lindsay, who are like, we have to find our son, and then we'll give him lots of gifts. And he's like, no, dumbass, you're supposed to spend time with him.
Yeah, I do like when Chuck is like, guys, that's not how you fix this.
If your name is Chuck, you know how to solve problems in this series.
Yeah,
apparently.
I'm not a huge fan of the original Sonic X characters, but Chuck is one of the better ones, I think.
Yeah,
I can say that at this
yeah.
point.
So Sonic and Chris arrive at this summer cabin that I guess the Thorndikes owned.
They at least used one summer.
Yeah, and Chris is feeling a lot of doubt, and he's kind of dumbfounded that Sonic is just going along with this because I think he knows he's wrong.
Well, yeah.
And he's like, "Why didn't you hold this against me?" And Sonic's like, "I'll do whatever." And it's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you saved my life. I'm indebted to you," and that pisses Chris off.
That really pisses Chris off.
And it's because that's not Sonic. Sonic does what makes Sonic happy.
Right.
Which is why I think that it's significant that Sonic does go along with all that, is because it isn't in character. I think they wrote it that way on purpose because Sonic knows that Chris will eventually do the right thing.
Sure.
Which does not discount what Lauren said, which is that if it is that close to everybody being stuck in a time loop forever, then that's certainly reckless.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing is Chris, like, point blank asks him, even if the world has to freeze, you'll stay with me, and Sonic's like, that's what you want. Like, if we can assume that he's lying and he could just run all the way back in the nick of time, I suppose that's reasonable. Honestly, I guess Sonic has done similarly risky things before, but usually it's not simply to try to better a human he's barely interacted with.
Yeah. I do love the exchange that finally works on him, though, which is that, Chris is, again, so upset, and this is part of the thing, though, that I also think is clever, because, we say always barely interact with him, and that is true, but then when Chris is like, so you were just doing all of this out of obligation and not friendship, it's like, that does work with the fact that Sonic hasn't really acted like his friends, and Sonic hits him with, Chris, friendship is free will, which is cheesy, but also go fuck yourself, Chris. Get owned. So, yeah. I think this is the ultimate thesis for this episode is I get what they were going for.
Yeah, I understand what they're going for. They don't really hit the nail on the head. Your enjoyment
of this plotline is based entirely on whether what they were going for is something that you are able to put above the nitty-gritty of how it's executed.
Yeah.
Which in this case I sort of can.
Yeah.
But Chris admits that all of this cannot be forever. He'll have to eventually grow up and learn to be alone again, he says, which no, you're not, because you've always got other people. Sonic says, if you don't ever want to think about me, just look at the moon. The moon is the same in both worlds. How does that work? These are different dimensions, I thought.
It's the moon.
Wait a minute. So when they go back, is there just going to be half roboticized moon?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
Because I thought the point is that these are two planets that are in different dimensions but taking up the same space in each. But that would have to be like they're different planets in the same dimension.
So I'm thinking he actually doesn't literally mean it's the same moon. I think
They
It's-
look the same, maybe?
I
We'll
don't
have to
know
see
how the
next
different
week
dimensions
if the
work.
Egg Moon appears on Sonic World, I guess.
If it is the Egg Moon, then I take back everything I'm saying. But I feel like the two planets, since they're similar and come from the same place, the moon is also similar.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a weird way of saying it, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's just another way of saying, you can always remember me, and that's always
Right.
important.
Yeah. So, we finally end off with Nelson and Lindsay arriving at the villa and finding their son Chris there alone.
Chris
And,
shoved Sonic in the water. Like, if I can't be with you, no one can.
Oh, that's amazing.
What a
Yonder
dark
Chris.
end that would be.
So, yeah, lots of drama this week. Certainly,
Yeah.
certainly a plot dense couple of, not plot dense, but writing dense. I don't know. It's like
Dense.
these to me, even though we had these arguments over them, these to me are way better episodes than most of the show. Just because even though we're having those arguments, we are engaging with the characters and their motivations and the world and its narrative.
Yeah, we're still at least getting something fairly interesting.
Whatever these episodes are, they're not a waste of time, is the thing.
That's true, yeah.
Even though one of them is literally a waste of time. You know what I mean?
They're not a waste of episode
waste of our brain
space
power.
within the show.
Yeah.
Like, it serves a purpose within the show, unlike a lot of episodes.
Yeah, and I don't know. It set a very different tone, and I kind of like that. I don't know.
I can't bring myself to like these episodes.
Yeah,
but what you say is fair in that there was actual work put into them.
Yeah, it's like, I want to respect the fact that there's work in it, and I do, but I don't like what they're doing.
I guess. But you know what? Sometimes you have an episode that you're not sure how to feel about, and then you have another day and another episode, because that is where we are ending off for tonight. Next time on Deep Dive Zone, what do you do when you've run out of ideas with what to do with Earth? Better go to space!
I guess so.
Oh boy.
Next week, we are returning to Sonic's world briefly before we begin the Metarex and Space Adventure saga of Sonic X, the final major part of the show, the thing that I think the show really became known for, and it's going to be interesting. We're definitely going to get the best original Sonic X character, I think.
Alright.
And, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll be fun. Who knows? I can't pretend to predict your guys' reactions to anything anymore. But with all that said, that is where we're going to be done for tonight. If you guys enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, comments, criticism, or feedback, please reach us at any of the links in the link tree in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next week for another episode. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and take care.